You've been judged.
I've been judged, and we're live. We never know when that's going to start, and they were just making fun of me. Nothing new under the sun. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans.
You like it.
I mean, it has its moments. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just three nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. Yes, I know you're mocking me, Doc. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. As you can see, mostly that's Doc. But without further ado, we're going to let our guest, Miss Killian Wolf, introduce herself to our listeners and viewers.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here.
We're glad you did. Agree. Sometimes people think reaching out to them out of the blue is weird and stalkery, but, you know, what can you do? I'm the creep that wants to help them sell their stuff.
You've done.
Well, I mean, I send this edited with the new name, but the message is always the same. Hey, we're nerds with a podcast. Let's sell your book. I don't know why that... I think we've all become so jaded that everyone instantly has it's a scam thing going.
That's exactly
in the back of their head.
Yeah.
So it's all those robots and all the money you're about to inherit from your dead uncle in Kenya or whatever. All right. So the next part of the introduction, dear listeners, how we found Killian. So I was scrolling the bookish side of Instagram and I found her book covers. And like I said, we judge a book by its cover. I just typed fantasy author into the search bar and it gave me a bunch of people. Some of them we still will be interviewing. Some of them blocked me. I don't know, whatever. But here we are. Doc, you've seen the messages. I promise it wasn't weird. But before we get started, Doc probably won't kick you out because she likes you already. You made fun of me. But we've got to ask the religion question. So, Doc, do your job.
My job is never done. It is always making fun of JR first and foremost.
It's true. It's in the contract.
It is. His mother made me promise. For this, she gives me wine and chocolate.
You know, she's never bought me alcohol. I'm saying she sent you bottles of wine and I have to buy my own beer. I'm just saying there's something wrong there.
Yeah, because I drink good wine, you drink bad beer. But, so how about sci-fi? We're going to start there today, which is Star Trek, Star Wars, or Firefly. Which one would you pick?
So right off the bat, I am a huge Star Wars fan. Like, it is part of my family's religion. My mother goes around telling people that she is a Jedi. That's her religion. My husband's a huge Star Wars fan. So big on Star Wars.
I mean, I think it was the fastest growing religion in the early aughts in England. So
yeah, I believe that. But because you have Firefly on there, oh man. I really missed Firefly. I was devastated when I could not continue watching it because they canceled it. And yeah, that sucks. But definitely Star Wars. Huge Star Wars fan.
Did you see that England actually had somebody try to petition to have Jedi recognized as an official religion? Yes. It failed. But it gets closer every time they petition it.
I think that it just needs to draw more attention. You know what I mean? Because I don't see why not. Like,
I mean,
it's the Force. How could you argue with the Force?
It's very Baha'i in some ways.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
JR, do you know what that means?
I'm gonna smile and nod and pretend.
The Baha'i faith. Yeah.
I had a good friend in high school who was, and we would talk about it sometimes. It's really interesting, but yeah, there's kind of in layman's terms, JR, for you is, it says that they kind of believe that everybody is right. They're just not seeing the whole picture.
Okay.
At least that's how, if somebody is listening and they have a huge long explanation of how I got it wrong or right, they're welcome to share it with me, because this was the explanation I understood as a teenager. So I could be heavily flawed.
That sounds a lot like Heinlein Stranger in a Strange Land's moral message.
You know what? That's what I told her, and I made her read it. So.
I think the last time I read about the Baha'i religion, I was also in high school. I don't remember too much about it, except that it was a little altruistic.
It is, but I think most religions are in some ways. So, but getting into the fantasy religions, that just sounds very loaded now that I said it out loud. Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Conan the Barbarian.
So I was a Game of Thrones fan, but I just kind of fell off. I did
You fell
not
off the
watch.
wagon.
Yeah, I did not watch the final season. I know how it ends,
I
and
think they kind of just pushed people off the wagon.
yeah. So I wish I could say that I'm still a Game of Thrones fan. I mean, I still obviously like a lot of the characters, Jon Snow, but yeah, Conan and the Barbarian. I think I was too young to really remember it. And I have not gotten into the Wheel of Time yet.
It's okay. It's a very thick series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Robert Jordan is like David Weber, or when it comes to words. The more words, the more descriptive, the more better.
Gotcha.
So there's a reason they picked Sanderson to continue his legacy.
Right. Yeah. No, and I like Sanderson, so I mean, I don't know.
Sanderson's a great guy.
Yeah.
Very wordy in his prose.
Right.
So, as everybody here knows, we love both sci-fi and fantasy, but which was your first love?
Fantasy. In fact, I prefer to watch sci-fi rather than read it. I don't know. I will always watch a fantasy and I will always read fantasy, but when it comes to sci-fi, I very much prefer watching it.
I can see that. There's less paragraphs about explaining scientific principles, and it's easier to.
Yeah.
If that is not part of the world building that you enjoy, it's easier for it to be kind of sloughed to the side.
And it's funny because I have a master's in science and archaeology. So you would think that I would be very interested in reading sci-fi stuff, but honestly, I don't know. Maybe I just got like dissertationed out. Like I just don't really want to.
I mean, it actually kind of makes sense to me, but then again, I tell people all the time, I don't do science, which I've been told is not nice to tell people who don't know me, because I've apparently suckered this one guy into explaining to me some basic scientific principle, and everybody thought he was a jerk until they went, well, and he goes, why are you explaining that to her? And he goes, because she said she doesn't do science. And they turned and they looked at me and they went, you just set him up to look like the biggest jerk. Why? Because I have 2 bachelors of science. I do science every day.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was just funny. I just didn't want to talk about science. So I was like, I don't do it.
Yeah. No, I get you. Like I'll do it when I have to. If I'm in a
archaeology is basically like just being a historian but camping at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
Quantum mechanics is basically just fantasy.
True story.
Yeah, I mean, my master's is in well, this is going to be a long one, environmental paleoeconomy.
Okay.
Which is like, ethnobotany, paleoethnobotany. So that's just it's just more lab work. Yeah. More Excel sheets, staring into a microscope and hurting your eyesight. But yeah, I mean,
see, that's why I just chemistry. I get all of that without having to deal with the microscope.
Right.
Mine was colonial American history for my master's, and that was it was fun, all right? And the reason I picked that as my master's is because it was the only master's degree in history that didn't require me to learn a foreign language. Because, America.
I apologize. I don't know if you can hear my cat banging on the door. I hope that's not coming in through.
Doc and I have kids. We just assumed it might have been ours.
Honestly, actually, yeah. I was just wondering if I could go check.
Yeah, my ears perked up too, and I'm like, is he?
Mine should be asleep in bed. If he's not, then he better be hiding, because he should be pretending to sleep.
So, what was your first memory of engaging in speculative fiction? Was it watching sci-fi, reading fantasy novels, playing games? Like, where did you find the umbrella genre that we all love, known as speculative fiction?
My mother bought me my first novel when I was in kindergarten, and that was called Jurassic Park. And it was that big.
That's kind of heavy reading.
One, I approve. Your mother's a good drug dealer. Like we know, the first hit is always free.
Yeah.
Gotta get them hooked.
Oh man. Yeah. And I mean, my mom, like, she'd always really been big into reading, and she's also a writer. And
cool.
So she always put, because when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist. How I became an archaeologist, I don't know, something happened. But
There's still an ist in there. It's okay.
Not lost on the way to the historical building.
But I actually read it. I read the novel a lot of times out loud to her, and I was like in kindergarten, like I was this little girl. So I
love your mother. She is awesome.
Yeah, she is awesome. But yeah, and then she was always into the scary stuff. Anne Rice and Interview with the Vampire and The Witching Hour and all of those things. I mean, she bought me Stephen King books when I was very young, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint, like, oh, this is when it happened. It's always been kind of like my life.
So you come from a family of readers as well?
Sorry?
You come from a family of readers?
Yeah. On my mom's side, yeah.
Nice. We've broken a few stockings on Christmas because they got overloaded with books.
Oh, that's apparently nice. That's a good reason, though.
Yeah, we've decided hanging them on fireplaces doesn't really work. You break them. You got to put them on the floor so you can put more books in. I mean, it's the way.
Yeah.
So, Doc, you see nothing wrong with this. Don't lie. I've seen your bookshelves. Although we do have a few author friends we know that when we look at their bookshelves, we need a moment to quell the jealousy and to make peace with ourselves again because their libraries are just so huge.
That's awesome. When I lived in England, I was trying not to buy so many books because I always knew I was going to come and move over. So I'm just trying to regain my collection back a little bit. Well, that's not working. There we go.
I have learned that I can never stop buying books, so I just need to learn to be incredibly picky about which books I buy.
Yeah. And ebooks helped.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so many ebooks.
Yeah.
I have thousands of ebooks, and then when they're free, my ex, and this may be part of why he's an ex, is you go, why are you buying it? Because the 2 reasons not to are gone.
Yeah.
What 2 reasons? It's free and I don't have to store it.
Yeah, it's free and I can.
Exactly.
Doc, I think we're keeping her.
In that moment that there was some fundamental difference.
We've interviewed. I said we're keeping you. You're our people. We've interviewed a few authors who are like, oh, I don't like to read. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
That's how you improve your writing.
I would think as an author, that'd be the one thing you don't admit. That's like a basketball player that's on the NBA be like, no, I hate basketball. It's like you don't tell people that.
He plays tennis on his spare time. Yeah.
No joke. Tennis is a lot of running, though. I don't know why there's not more cursing as they fall and run into the net.
No, I suck at tennis, man. I never hit the ball. I just chase after it, and by the time I'm over here, the ball's already over there, and I'm like.
When I took tennis classes, I hit the ball exactly twice. One of those times, I managed to hit the instructor with the ball. By the way, the instructor was standing behind me.
That's talent.
So,
I stopped playing after that semester.
So playing, I actually took when I was in undergrad, I took a semester where we did introduction to various sports because it was an easy credit, and tennis was on there.
Can I take that class?
I was just because my deployments, I had to get some easy credits to graduate without being a delay. But I will say, when you play tennis, I felt like a dog playing fetch because that's all I felt like I was doing was running back and forth after the dang ball. It was not fun. Give me rugby any day. You can hit people.
Oh,
what's not to love?
That's brutal.
But it's fun though.
That's
now, the really brutal game.
It's like football, but without the tackling. And I'm so glad he remembers without the tackle.
Yeah, that would be bad. The real hard one is the lacrosse, because I've been hit with one of those because they had a practice field next to us, and I don't know if it was on purpose because we were encroaching their field or on accident, air quotes. But yeah, those things hit you. They hurt. I had a welt for a while.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's not good. So getting back on track without going too far down memory lane, because we want to talk about your books a lot. Well, what is it about speculative fiction as a umbrella genre that you love so much?
I think honestly, just the magical escapism of it. I don't know. Real life is just kind of brutal and harsh. I mean, so can fantasy be, you know what I mean? So can like sci-fi, but just the possibility that like you can enter another world and there's magic or something like that, Yeah,
but it's also harsh without actually being
feeling it
to you.
Right.
I mean, yes, I get it when like certain characters die. I have bawled my eyes out. But it's not actually being done to you, and you can take a break.
Yeah. I mean, it can hit you emotionally sometimes, but then like it, you remind yourself these are just fictional characters and you can move on with your life.
Yes. Now that I'm an
Absolutely.
adult, that is a skill set I have learned. As a teenager, I did not have that.
Right. I think there are still some characters I haven't really gotten over, if I'm honest, but
Yeah, there's a few.
So, out of all of those experiences and the ones you've had in life, are there any that have like formed how you are as a storyteller?
That's an interesting question. Probably. I mean, I've always had a big imagination, and I've always deep down, I've always been a writer because my mom was a writer, and when you're a kid, you kind of just watch what your parents do and copy them, right? So yeah, I think that the more I've read, I've really loved the scary, the spooky, the dark. I've always leaned more into Anne Rice and Stephen King more than even Jurassic Park. I mean, I liked it. It's classified as horror.
Michael Crichton was too, John Crichton, whatever he was.
I think it was Michael.
Was just too perky for you, huh?
Yeah. I did love it. But no, I was more into the paranormal kind of side of fantasy.
I get that.
Yeah.
So what is it about all this love that kind of transitioned you from just a consumer and lover of it to somebody who wants to create it?
Yeah, like I said, I think I've always had like stories that I've wanted to tell. I've always wanted to be an author. And because I've always loved the paranormal and I've done my own like paranormal investigations and stuff like that, my brain just kind of take over and be like, oh, I also grew up in a haunted house.
So do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
So what's this? We're going a little bit off script, Doc. Just humor me for a second.
I'm going to say this one. Whenever you're in a house with a ghost and you start talking about like how you don't like them, they don't believe in them, they get hostile about it.
I don't know. I've been in places they told me were haunted, and I insulted the ghost, and I didn't see anything, and nothing bad happened. So
yeah.
I'm skeptical.
Idiot.
What's that?
Nothing.
But one thing that I always get is all the ghosts are always like from the 17 and 1800s and periods that are really cool. Where is there no circa 2000s like guy like careening himself in a corner screaming Britney did nothing wrong? Like where are all the modern ghosts?
Sure they're there. But no, well, so the house that I grew up in, my grandfather designed it. He built the house, and actually it inspired my Castilian Blood series. Not to get too off topic because we're here for Lost in Terror Land, but I even have the plans of the house in the back of the first book. Like it like that is in that house. And my uncle passed away when he was 27 in a motorcycle accident, so he inspired one of the characters. And I always believed that he was one of the ghosts in the house. Just there was like a very huge attachment to this particular spirit, and he would appear to people, and people would describe what my uncle wore in his casket: top hat, black suit, the way he would stand.
The top hat's very distinctive for.
It's very distinctive. The way he would stand, though, my uncle, he was really kind of like, he was tall and he was muscular and he had like this like stance, and it was crazy. Because I would actually see like black masses kind of going from one room to the other very slowly, and they would appear out of nowhere. Things would move in front of me, but I would never actually physically see my uncle's spirit, but other people would and describe his characteristics to me. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. That was him. And my grandfather, he had like these monitors installed in the house where sometimes they would just turn on and you would hear somebody speaking. Down the line, I found out that there is a demon who preys on young girls who have lost someone, and they imitate the person they have lost.
So That's interesting, and that should go in a book somewhere if you haven't already. But
Yeah.
what paranormal activities were you investigating? You said you've done some investigations.
Yeah, so I did a lot in my own house. Unfortunately, my grandfather lost the house to the banks due to a series of unfortunate events. But I would take people over there and I would try to work with those spirits before I realized it was not actually my uncle. And so now I live in St. Augustine, but when I didn't live in St. Augustine, we'd come up here and do investigations, and we would do some in Key West, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So, having my only experience to that kind of work is the stuff you see on the History Channel, which for some reason they don't actually talk about history, just aliens and ghosts. Go figure.
Yeah, we hate the History Channel.
Just like MTV actually doesn't show any music videos on television anymore.
Not anymore.
But I remember when they did. How accurate are the investigations you see on the History Channel for ghost hunting? Is that what you guys do, or is that just
Yeah, you can always use an EVP and EMF and things like that. You can pretty much use anything that you might get something. If you're kind of treating it as a science, that's the best way, really. Use anything that you can. Now, I'm not a film person, so I don't know. I can't tell you if yeah, these are definitely legit.
Okay. Most of the History Channel is just them running around heavy breathing, and all I can think is, dude, cardio. Join me. We'll go to the gym. Not that I'm judging like from a position where I'm a stud or anything, but I'm just saying I can walk around the house without dying.
The Blair Witch Project comes to mind, that like shaking of the camera, the breathing, and they're like looking at a branch and they're like, look, it's there. And I'm like, there's nothing there.
I feel you. So you mentioned in the introduction earlier that you were in the Army National Guard. So we ask all of our authors this question, who also served. But do you feel like your time in uniform affects the stories you tell?
Maybe one character, maybe one or two characters. But so with the Guard, I was in for 3 years. Unfortunately, I had an uncategorized discharge due to my eyesight, so I was not sent anywhere. And it was a lot of time spent trying to become an officer for no reason. So
okay. Well, that stinks, but you did more than most. So, hey, we thank you for your service.
Thank you. I learned a lot, and I still appreciated my time there.
So do you ever...
You're willing to sign on the line, you get to be a sister.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that, you maybe some of your characters are inspired by your time in uniform. Were they directly inspired by people you knew, or just the culture?
A little bit of both. A bit of the culture, but there's one character who is such a hard ass. And yeah, he is inspired by a certain captain I knew.
Cool. So
just a little bit of an inspiration, though. If they're ever watching, it's not the whole character. Yeah.
No, I get that, because sometimes like you have to make people larger than life in either their good or their bad sides to make the character work. And so it's not fair to say it's a 1-for-1 unless you're writing a biography.
Right. Yes.
And even then, that's an interpretation unless you're using primary sources.
I can't wait for somebody to write a biography where you're in it.
I mean, it would probably be kind of boring.
I don't know.
My life wasn't that exciting.
You're boring. I didn't say with you a biography of you.
Oh, well then why would they hire...
Maybe
biographies don't make enough money.
Mom's pretty amazing.
She is. All right. So we talked a little bit about how your time in uniform affects the way you tell stories. Has it changed how you engage with content as a reader, be it movies, video games, or novels?
Oh, for sure. For sure. So I got into a real historical fantasy like time period where I would read. I love David Gemmell, and a lot of that was just due to like the military culture that he would write, and the fantasy war, if you will. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think Doc and I have talked about this, and we're actually planning a fireside chat. That's like our sort of panels away from a con. Is we've noticed in both fantasy and sci-fi, they tend to write combat too clean, and everyone's so nicely dressed. It's just like when you watch the historic videos and everyone's teeth are so pretty. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they didn't have like fresh toothpaste, or I mean, not to say they didn't clean their teeth, but like it's just too sanitary. And I'm like, no, people. I mean, even if you've just been camping, you don't even have to have been to combat. You get dirty.
Yeah.
So you can exhort a Sarge chat. That's Doc and I keeping each other on task, so to speak.
Yeah.
I should have told you that in the pre-show. This is boring to the audience, and I'm sorry. But Doc, the fandom question is next. And this is the one you get all excited about.
So transitioning from all of this into some fandom, because, you know, you have an audience, you have people who love what you do. Have you had any cool fan art or a cosplay of one of your characters yet?
Not cosplay yet. I can't wait for that. But I have a reader who she makes little crafts of like inspired by books that she reads. And I have a character, well, it's a spider. And her name is Philo. And the spiders in my story are like they're kind of like made of shards of like glass. And she created it.
Wow.
Yeah. She
That's
created it.
fan art to a whole new level.
I was like, I couldn't believe it. And she put it on TikTok, and I was just like, oh my God, I could cry. Like, it was beautiful.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
People who can make pretty things and art with their hands, like pictures and paintings and all that stuff, that just constantly impresses me. It's amazing.
Okay,
because I do not have those skills.
Glasswork, I'm going to say this one, JR. Glasswork is a category all on its own.
It's art meets science. I know.
I'm not sure she used glass.
Players.
I'm not sure what she used, but it came out really beautiful.
That is amazing. I really love that. So it's great to have creative fans because they it gets synergetic. They feed you and you feed them.
Right.
So has anyone ever asked for your autograph, and what was it like?
So actually recently, and I don't know if this counts, but I've had 2 different readers reach out to me on Facebook to see if they could buy a signed copy from me.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't want to buy it on Amazon. They wanted specifically like my autograph. They wanted me to sign it and send it to them. So that was so sweet. I was like, wow, really?
Just make sure you spell your name right when you sign it.
I know, right? I get really nervous.
No, like, I didn't do that, JR.
No, I did. The first time someone...
Right, you're the one who did it.
Yeah, the first time someone asked for my autograph, I was so nervous I forgot how to write in cursive and ended up spelling my name wrong. Not because I don't know how to spell my name, but because A's and N's and D's right next to each other, it can sort of squiggle together. Yeah. And so it didn't. The A looks like it morphed into the N, and the N wasn't there because my cursive sucks.
I have definitely been that nervous while signing, for sure. Yeah.
Like jokes aside, when I applied for an ROTC scholarship from the Marine Corps in college, one of the requirements was you write this essay. I don't remember the topic, but you had to write it by hand in cursive. That's probably to make sure you don't cheat. I spent more time practicing the cursive and practicing writing it in cursive than I did writing the dang essay because I never used it otherwise. So anyway, all right, Doc, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go back to your fandom stuff.
Okay. I understand. It's very cute and adorable that you have overcome your defectiveness. But no, in all seriousness, cursive is rather hard. And and you have to be dedicated as an adult to learn how to do it.
I kind of have a hard time writing in print now because I've been writing in cursive my whole life.
I will.
I learned print in like first grade / kindergarten kind of, but then I immediately learned cursive in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And then I went to a school that was teaching it in 3rd, and then a school that was teaching it in 4th. And so like when I got to 3rd grade, nobody could read my handwriting but the teacher, and because it was cursive, and I was so embarrassed. So now I have this really weird hybrid of the 2.
Oh, I see.
I find print just easier. So
it is easier. That's why they
teach cursive
first.
So those cursive in theory is faster because your pen doesn't have to come up.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it's easier because I can just, and with print, it's like my hand hurts more.
Although I can read it easier than I can write it because a lot of the historical stuff, because you're reading a lot of primary sources, is written in a form of cursive. And then don't even get me started on the historical typefaces where F's and S's and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
I did an internship at Valley Forge, and I translated into I typed up into a modern typewriter all of the 1700s Boston Gazettes, and I'm telling you that drove me bonkers.
Well, you were bonkers, so it probably took one.
Possibly true.
Very true. So, that being said, have you spotted somebody reading one of your books out in the wild?
Not yet. That would be exciting.
So how do you think you're going to react the first time you see that? You're going to go all fangirl, or are you going to be like, play it cool? Like, oh, what you reading? Are they any good? I've never heard of this author.
So I would probably, it would probably depend, on what I'm doing and what I'm wearing if I'm going to approach this reader. But yeah, I mean, I might just take a seat next to them and just be like, cool book. And see.
We had one author who said he started insulting the book until the person started defending the book.
Oh, awesome.
I'm like, that is some serious weirdness.
I kind of like that strategy.
So
it would be funny if the reader turns around and says, yeah, man, this sucks. I might DNF it.
Yeah. No. Oh, dude. I'm like, you're playing with fire.
Yeah, you really are there.
I hadn't even considered that possibility, but now I think it was Larry Correia who said he did that in an airport once.
It was Larry Correia and it was Robert Ross.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is the exciting part, Killian, where you get to tell us everything you have written. So can you give us the Reader's Digest version of your body of work?
Sure. So I started off with my Custodian Blood series, and starting off by fantasy. And that has 5 books in it. The 5th one that's available on Amazon, it's just their part of the series so people can see it, because if you put it book 0, you won't. Amazon hides it. But that's kind of like a standalone villain story, and that's the Custodian Blood. It's an urban fantasy new adult series. And I also have a children's book series called Little Krampus. It's my Little Krampus series, and it's a non-religious holiday book. Yeah, it's fun. I'm working on the 4th one now, so that should be ready by Christmas, I hope. And of course,
I know what I'm getting for Christmas.
Little Krampus. Oh yeah, I have big plans for Little Krampus, plushies, the whole bit. And then of course now I'm working on my Chronicles of Tarotland series, and we have book 0. This one I did do a book 0 because I have the ebook free to join my list, but the paperback is available on Amazon. And that one is a standalone. It's with a character that you will meet in Lost in Tarotland, and he will get his own spin-off series that's more Norse mythology after this one. And then, yeah, Lost in Tarotland, and then the next book in the series is coming out soon, which is called The Devil's Gambit.
All right. All of that sounds fascinating, but before we dive into that, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man and the woman, because you listened to their interview last week, people.
Are you searching for an epic new fantasy book to read? Well, look no further. Try out Spring for Spears, where the fate of the Wolf Riders falls on an outcast. Astrid would give anything to be one of the Ulfsark, the fearless warriors who ride giant Amarak wolves. Like her ancestors, she yearns for the soul-deep bond with the wolf, the connection, the union, a chance to prove her worth and honor her mother's legacy. Yet, she's never heard the wolf song, and with each passing year, it's likely she never will. Except Astrid refuses to accept her fate. Then, an encounter with a nature spirit and a foreign princess dashes her last hope and changes everything. Will Astrid save a fragile peace and embrace her destiny? Or will her dreams of the wolf song fade to distant lands? Join Astrid and friends on a thrilling new fantasy adventure in A Spring for Spears, the first novel in the Wolf Song Saga, a series by best-selling, award-winning authors Katie Cross and Derek Allen Sidaway.
I thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude, and I've actually read that book because they gave me a review copy, and oh my goodness, they are evil cliffhangering bastards who are going to leave me hanging till the end of summer. And
I will say this one: it is both wonderful to hear my friend doing it, but also very weird. It reminds me of being a kid and hearing my mom like read me a bedtime story to bed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask her to re-record that to make that louder. I didn't realize how soft that was going to be when I played it as a commercial. But we're not here to talk about Katie. That was the last episode. We're here to talk with Killian today. So thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. But let's not dally. So let's talk about the book that brought us here. Wow, I can speak tonight. Lost in Tarot Land. So where did you get the premise for this universe? How'd you come up with the idea? Was it psychedelics, Ouija board? Overindulging in overly caffeinated coffee, because I've peeped your YouTube page and I know you like Cuban coffee.
Oh yeah.
I drank that once and I could see sound and hear colors. I'm just saying.
It runs through my veins. Yes, I've actually quit cold turkey temporarily because I went to the hospital and I had to like cut a lot of stuff out of my diet just temporarily. So I've been like, oh no.
I paid for grad school working at Starbucks and other coffee shops, and one of my managers was Cuban American, and so she's like, "No, you can't drink this Starbucks crap. That's not real coffee. Let me make it." And she brought in the whole fixins, the whole setup into work, and we all had Cuban coffee, and I could swear like I was jittery. It was glorious. I wish I could make it myself, but I just could never get it quite right.
Oh, I make it very good, very well.
I apparently need to find local Cuban friends because it was delicious.
Yeah, so
Anyway.
I'm half Cuban, but I'm also half Honduran, and I used to spend some weeks with my father in his farm in Honduras, and I took with me like a bunch of books, like this nerd going into the jungle with like all these books.
I've seen nothing wrong.
And what was I studying? I was studying esoteric, different paths, paganism, tarot cards, stuff like that. And I have insomnia. I've always had insomnia. And it was like, I swear, like at 1, 2 in the morning. And it's so silent. So we're up in the mountains in Valle Angeles. And my father's asleep. Everybody's asleep. And I am there. And I just get like a spark of idea. Just reading the history of the tarot inspired me that I wanted to write kind of back then, and this was years ago, okay? This was a very, very long time. I want to say it was like 16 years ago. So this has been in the back burner for a long time. I wanted to write a book where the tarot cards changed your surroundings and brought you into another world. But at the time, I wanted it to be more historical, because what they used to be was they used to give you images and stories of what was happening outside of what the church wanted people to know. So I wanted a lot of those things to come to light. But years later, and I started writing fantasy, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And after speaking to my editor about my idea, she said, wow, that actually really reminds me of Alice in Wonderland. Except instead of the playing card soldiers, we have the minor arcana soldiers. Instead of Queen of Hearts, we have the Empress. And all of this just started sparking. And I was just like, okay, this is going to happen.
Okay. I mean, I like that. That sounds interesting. I remember as I was prepping, like obviously all the books sound interesting or we wouldn't interview, but interesting enough that I would spend my time to read it aren't always the same. And this one is I was looking for the audiobook. So
audiobook.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but that doesn't mean it might not come in the future.
Yeah, I hope it does come in the future. Sales need to go up in order for me to be able to warrant the audiobook.
Yeah, I got to get a new e-reader because I've been reading on my phone and the little thing just like, it's not good for my eyes. So it's time to actually fork out for like a small tablet I can use. But Doc swears I shouldn't get the Kindle Fire because I should not be proprietarily bound to Amazon. She doesn't like Bezos. I think they have a blood feud going on, but I can't swear.
There's not a blood feud going on. I refuse to have a blood feud with a golem.
All right, Doc. Let's not have you go down the dark path.
Nook came back.
Yes, yeah. I love my Nook.
She names them and everything.
Oh, nice.
I think she's having a romantic relationship with her Nook.
Way. I go to sleep with my Nook more often than I do anybody else. It's okay.
All right, ask question 21 instead. We don't want to make people feel awkward.
Okay. So, what would you say the age range of your stories is?
So this is young adult, but I do say that this is upper YA. Yeah. Like
So not quite new adult, but still young adult.
right, exactly. Like 16-year-olds are probably fine, 17, pretty good age spot and up.
Yeah.
So what is
for
it?
those- oh, what were you
I
gonna say?
was going to say, just because, there are precocious readers like the three of us who read things way before we were probably old enough.
Right.
What is in it that makes you give pause? So that way, because we have some families that listen together,
Yeah.
what their tolerance is obviously might vary. So what is it in it that makes you say 16 to 17?
Yeah, so like you said, it depends on the tolerance. I've had a parent say, "No, my kid, can read, and she'll list books that I'll be like, "Oh, okay, fine, then yeah, go ahead." So yeah, it does have some steam. There's nothing like there's no real spiciness on screen, like it does fade to black, but the steam can get pretty intense. And
Okay.
there's also a lot of blood and gore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Sorry to interrupt, Doc.
No, that's fine. I would say that if you are a listener and you don't know what new adult is very akin to young adult, but with some young adult tropes and everything, but with some much more mature content.
Yeah.
I once had a new adult fan explain it to me as YA meets 50 Shades, and I went, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So badly written fanfic?
No, I think she meant like the maturity
No,
level.
I was trying to be funny, but sure,
Was it 50
walk all over
Shades?
the joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a bookseller, so she knew what she was talking about.
I'm not, Doc. I was literally just trying to be funny. Like, overanalyzing it ruins the joke. Ask question 22. Jesus.
You're not funny. It's okay. It's okay that you're not funny. Okay. So let's put this book cover up. I think it's awesome.
So first off, she has some amazing ad copy, but now let's just zoom into the book itself. All right, Doc. I got it up. You're good.
I am good. I think it's an amazing cover. I love it. So can you tell us a bit about how this was generated? I mean, it does remind me of a Discovery of Witches in a good way.
Ooh, I like that.
I've read that book series.
I'm impressed. You read.
So
no, we had a huge discussion about Discovery of Witches. So, but tell me, I mean, it's not, if you are, it can be a little challenging for people who are colorblind, but I think it is a very good cover.
Thank you. Yeah, so Logan Keys is my cover designer, and she is just amazing. This is actually a rebrand. So the first cover, it was actually titled The Cursed Tarot. And I actually have a little poster here that I could show the screen. This is what it looked like.
Hold on for just a second, and I'll put you on the solo layout real quick.
Oh, I like that too.
There we go. That is what it looked like before.
But so that doesn't really strike me as tarot, though.
Ah,
but
yeah.
I love it.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I love it. It's very
Phantom of the Opera.
And
right.
What's that Italian thing where the masks?
Yeah, and that's part of the villain's whole thing. Yeah. So this is like the Empress of the book, and even though it was a beautiful cover and people seem to really love it, I think it was drawing the wrong crowd. I think it was. I think because of the mask and that ominousity of it, I think it was calling a lot of dark romance readers.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So we decided to do it over. We even changed the title, which unfortunately made me lose all of my reviews that I had on Amazon. So now I'm up to like 9 reviews for the Lost in Tarot Land. Previously I had like 25 or something on there, but oh well, starting over. But Lost in Tarot Land, it reminded me of Lost in Wonderland, and we wanted to really bring in those Alice retelling vibes because it is a fairy tale retelling.
No, I did without telling them about the subtitle of the story being, the dark retelling of Alice in Wonderland. I showed some people that weren't colorblind this cover, and they're like, "Is this Alice in Wonderland?" So you nailed it with that. Because in prep work, if I can't see a cover because it's colorblind, I bug my friends that can see colors
Okay.
to get impressions. There we go, of the book. So I would say you nailed that.
Yeah, we still have like the drink me bottle and then the little Cheshire cat and the mushrooms, but we also have and the checkered print in the back, but we also have a few notes of like nautical with the steering wheel and Lost and to kind of also be like, okay, this is a bit of a mashup.
I dig it. I really like what you're doing here.
Thank you.
All right, Doc, did we bore you? Sometimes she knits, but she doesn't stab me. Killian, sometimes she's knitting on the side so she doesn't stab me. It's her escape route.
Oh, that's fun.
It's a thing. It's okay. So Jerry, the next question is actually yours.
Well, actually, it's not, but I'll claim it anyway. So what would the 30-second elevator pitch of this be? She got distracted knitting and she forgot where we were.
No, I
where
didn't.
we were. Anyway, 30-second elevator pitch and go.
That it's series special.
I would say it's a young adult fantasy enemies to lovers Alice in Wonderland pirate mashup.
So what is it about the enemies to lovers that you like so much? Because I hold a grudge. Maybe it's the Scottish ancestry. That's what my grandma always told me. But I don't know that I could ever forgive someone that's truly an enemy long enough to fall in love with them.
Right? Yeah, and I think that whole little taboo-ness about it is what I love so much to read in fantasy.
Okay.
Not so much in real life, but the tension between the characters. Usually there is an attraction, but they know that they have to hate each other because of something big, something so bad and drastic that it's like I can't allow myself to feel attracted to this person, but that tension is still there.
So do you think like the Romeo and Juliet, where their families didn't like each other but they did, would qualify as enemies to lovers?
Well, no, because Romeo and Juliet, they weren't really enemies, were they?
No, but I'm just trying to find out where the line is. I'm a piss on their grave and salt the earth kind of guy. So, and I have a list. I'm just saying. All right. So what is it, do you think, that makes your series special?
This is not it. This is not your normal retelling. You're not going into Wonderland here, obviously, right? It's lost in Terrorland. There are parallels. I can show you a picture of my version of a Cheshire cat.
Sure. Let me put you back on the solo screen. Give me just a second. Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
That's creepy, yeah?
Yeah, I like it. I want him to be my pet now.
Right. And
I mean, that explains so much about JR, but
it does.
And he can, so in my world building, and we can talk a little bit about the world building later. Kind of like how we have a fifth dimension that's like, there's a spirit world. Over there's a spirit world, but it's very, very, very real. And animals that have magic can disappear into it and come back out. So Catagaris, Gary for short, he has access to all these magical cookies and stuff like that. And he gives them to the main character, like, here, try this. And so there are parallels. He's like the Cheshire Cat version. He's just a little bit more twisted in, different ways. And then, like I was saying before, we have, instead of the Queen of Hearts, we have the Empress. Instead of a Mad Hatter character, I do have a pirate captain. And the armies are similar. But again, it's not Wonderland. The world is completely made up. It's very epic fantasy. I even have a conlang constructed language in there.
Cool. Nice. Now, how some people that construct a language, they're like literally functional languages, like nerds can speak them. And I'm not saying that judgmentally. I met a guy who spoke Klingon so well, when he was drunk, he was still talking in Klingon. Is it one of those
guy like that? You don't get out much.
I mean, I don't go to cons, no, and he was at a con drunk talking in Klingon to somebody who was wearing Vulcan stuff. I don't know if they have a language too. I just kept walking at that point. It was a little uncomfortable. But is it a language that could actually be spoken, or just enough for the book?
Absolutely, yes, actually. In fact, full disclosure, I hired someone to create the conlang, and I can tell you who he is. His name is Christian Dahlman, and he has worked on one of the languages. I forgot which one. He worked on the language for Shadow and Bone, and he helped with Dothraki. So
Okay.
he's very professional, and he's still working on it because the series is still going. And I mean, he has a freaking dissertation size of this language. So if people really want to get into it, they can actually speak it. And if this ever, not that there's any plans, not that I'm even trying right now, but if it was ever put into TV, any team of conlangers can take these notes and build on it.
Nice. I wonder if when he went to school to get his dissertation in languages, if he realized he would get paid by nerds to make up fake ones instead. I'm not judging it. I think it's kind of cool, but
it's awesome. Yeah.
So which tropes do you feel like lost in Tarotland, which is subtitle, A Dark Alice in Wonderland retelling? Which tropes do you think you hit the best?
So I think I mentioned enemies to lovers. So definitely found families.
I like that.
Yeah, found families, and there's a little bit of a chosen one. I think it is a chosen one. It's a little bit different, but it is definitely a chosen one trope in there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is fantasy. We've said that. Which subgenres of fantasy do you think this best fits into? It sounds like it's definitely some adventure fiction. But what else?
Fairy tale retellings, YA fairy tale retellings, and of course Alice in Wonderland retellings. That's its own thing. And I would also go with myths and legends, because the Empress and the ancient Greeks basically came into this portal world and they took over. So there's ancient Greek myths in there.
Okay. Are you well? Obviously, as a historian, you get some level of training on the ancient myths. But is that something you were already interested in, or is that something you said, "Hey, that would work for the story," and now let me learn more?
That I mean, I've studied ancient Greek mythology for years, but in this case, yeah, it worked for the story because I wanted to incorporate the past fates, and that's Lachesis, Clotho, and Atropos. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to make past fate descendants, and they're going to come from ancient Greece, and that's why I did it this way.
Okay. Now, because I did my education through military history channels, it was more Norse and Valhalla was the focus. But I will tell you, I have read Rick Riordan, so I think I'm pretty much at this point an expert on the Greeks and the Romans. It's totally the same thing, right?
Oh my God!
Fox's eyes are gonna roll right.
Why do I let you talk to people?
Oh my. The spin-off series is going to be in Yggdrasil, in those lands. And
nice.
I'm very big in Norse mythology, so I can't wait.
That's
the Fool's
exciting.
Journey, which is book 0, is more into that, because that character, that's his path.
All right, well then, Doc, save me for myself and ask your question next before I come up with more off-the-wall shenanigans.
Oh, you are off the wall. That is for sure. So do you have any really unique secondary characters that you would love to tell us about to flesh out this world?
Secondary characters.
Yeah.
The whole crew. The whole pirate crew are great.
All of them.
All of them. All of them. Yeah. They are each very unique in their own right. And without giving spoilers, one of the characters, she's in a wheelchair, and this is a land where that doesn't really happen much, and she's a badass. And I mean, the hermit was and this is a tarot card archetype, of course, was her mentor and taught her how to create a wheelchair so that she can use it, because she was born not being able to use her legs. And she has like chair cannon, and she can make explosive potions, and she's freaking amazing. I love that character so much.
So you said that it doesn't happen much. Is that because the medicine is so good that people aren't normally injured that way, or it's so bad that people don't normally survive those injuries?
Because people don't really survive them. It's kind of a rarity.
Okay, that
But
makes
she
sense in a
wasn't.
fantasy
But
world.
it wasn't an injury. She was just born that way, so it's a rarity.
Okay, what about the main character? What can you tell us about that character without obviously spoiler alert? But there's definitely room to sell them as exciting.
I'm sorry. Can I missed the first part of that?
So what can you tell us about the main character? You've hinted a little
Oh, the
bit.
main
but-
character. Okay. So the main character, again, without giving spoilers. So because this is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, I do start off here on Earth, and we actually start off in Louisiana. So the main character's name is Soren, and she grew up in the foster system after her mother was institutionalized, and her father couldn't handle her. So, but something that she did learn from her dad was a 3-card money trick. And yeah, and she takes that with her, and she scams people for money. And she's working in a carnival called Tarotland. And while working there, she steals a magical tarot card that opens a portal to this world.
So did she bring any modern tech with her, or was it just whatever the clothes she had on her back?
So I just didn't really want to give too many spoilers, but she does get in trouble for not stealing the tarot card, but she was framed for something else, and she ends up in jail. But she manages to have the tarot card on her, so she kind of falls into this world wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Nice.
Yeah,
Which also means more than a shiv she probably wouldn't have on her.
Right. No, yeah, she had nothing on her. So, and the tarot card also, it is the world card from the tarot deck, of course. And
Cool.
she has, so her personality, she has a very hard time trusting people. Just her father gave her up. She's been in the foster system, right? So, all except one person that she considers her sister from the group home, and the entire time she's just completely devastated that she's no longer with her sister. But then when she lands in the world, she does get rescued by the pirates, and the captain is the tarot card archetype. He is the devil from the tarot deck. Deems her a spy for the Empress, and that is that's her antagonist in book 1, and also her love interest.
So you mentioned the tarot cards a lot. Do you stick with the actual tarot cards, or did you sort of make your own versions of them up for this series?
A little bit. So I did draw inspiration from the tarot deck, but here's the thing. There are so many different definitions, and there are just so many different variations also now. So I drew inspiration, and I also kind of created my own ideologically for the book.
Now,
go ahead, Doc.
I was going to say this is a series, so
Yeah.
is there another overarching bad guy between the books that kind of
So he's only the antagonist for book 1, but the whole overarching villain is the Empress, and also her Hierophant, another tarot card archetype, who's her advisor. He's a really bad guy. And there's also Ipani. Well, Ipani are the name of the natives, and they have magic. They have something called Uma, and so there are Ipani traffickers throughout the series as well.
Okay, so given you have some training with the Army, and you are an author, and I know you've done horrible, nasty, no good, dirty, rotten things to your characters, if they met you in a back alley and they knew that you were Killian Wolf, the one who created their torment, how do you see that interaction playing out?
I'd be in big trouble.
Which of the characters or secondary characters would give you the most trouble?
The devil captain.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, probably the pirate captain.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Pirates are popular right now. Lots of people are getting into it. And so they've, in some respects, watered down what it means to actually be a pirate to the point where Disney has the Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and the famous line I heard when my sons were watching it when they were little was, "We don't steal, we're pirates. We don't do that." And all I could think was, no, that's not how this works.
That's
That's
not
not
how
how
that
any of this works. So, on a scale of Jake and the Neverland Pirates and I don't know, whatever the opposite end of that would be, where are your pirates on the authenticity to the trade?
So where are my pirates, as in my main character crew, or the
Yes,
pirates of the whole world?
both. You can answer both.
Okay. So the pirates of the whole world, they are horrible. They're rough. They're rough. They traffic people. They steal, they kill. The pirates of my crew, they do not traffic people, but they are pirates against the Empress. They will not follow her rules. They will not abide by the laws. They are, seeking refuge on their ship. And
So basically, they're privateers.
they are. They will still kill and they will still steal. But their motives are different.
Okay, I like that. Do they get a letter of marque from anyone, or they just gave it to themselves?
They gave it to themselves.
Even better. All right, since we talked about your characters, do you have a favorite character archetype when you write?
I have a soft spot for the anti-hero and the villain.
Did you root for the Emperor and the Empire and the Stormtroopers when you watched Star Wars?
You know what?
Your parents are going to listen, so I'm just saying.
I know, right? I know, but she knows I'm a Sith. My mom knows I'm a Sith.
Nick is going to be sorry he missed this one.
You know what? Have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs test and then Googled like Myers-Briggs characters for Star Wars?
That's the INGJ, whatever that test that people do is.
Yeah. So I'm an INTJ,
that.
and that does belong to Palpatine. Funny enough.
I don't know that I've ever done that. Maybe we'll do that on air one day, Doc. Probably not. We actually interviewed a psychologist once. That was her day job when she wasn't authoring. And we made the joke that she would psychoanalyze us on air, but then realized that might mess with licensing because she meant it as a joke. And we were like, sure, let's do it.
That's funny.
JR was very eager for it because, it is attention.
I just thought it was hilarious, and I'll do anything if I'm amused. But
I'll do anything if he's amused. I have a huge soft spot for Anakin.
Okay. The infantry is the infantry, right? We'll do anything to amuse ourselves, and some of it not very safe. So you mentioned the world a little bit, and the fact that there are pirates. I'm assuming that they're waterborne pirates and not like airships or anything like that.
They are waterborne, but because it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, there are certain potions that can make you float or turn into a specter and fly. And the ship has like a copper tubing wire system that the character in the wheelchair, her name is Tessa, she helped build, where it can take those potions and you can do things with the Devil's Gambit, the name of the ship, and make it invisible, make it go faster, fly.
Nice. So does that mean that this is a large like archipelago world where it's mostly islands, or like what?
Yes.
Okay. What can you tell us about the worlds where this story is taking place?
I actually have a map.
I love maps.
Yeah, me too.
Hold on. Solo layout.
This one here.
Oh, I like it.
Nice.
Trying to get that right on the camera. I don't mean to make it dance.
You got it.
There we go.
IPA.
IPA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to get us to drink bad beer.
I know. I trust my conlang.
I'm gonna call it IPA. I like it.
IPA. I like it. That's pretty.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the. So, what can you tell us about the world where the story takes place? IPA.
Yeah. So, let's see. How can I start? This world. Yeah. So, like I was mentioning before, the fifth dimension kind of place that is real, and you can go into it if you have an Umala animal. Umala means magical, right? A magical animal that can take you in there. It's very much real, and you can disappear from the physical a little bit. But if you can if you can remember in Pandora, how they have like the spirit, the Navi have like the spirit religion kind of thing, it listens, the AO listens to you, and it's very much alive. So a little bit of the backstory. The Empress, who I said was from ancient Greece, and she's a past fate descendant, she was with her other two sisters, and they were escaping wars and seeking refuge. When they opened a portal, they didn't expect there to be a whole civilization already. They were bringing people, they were bringing, their seeds and their grains and stuff like that to get away. But when they realized that, oh, there's not only people here, there's magic, and it's a threat to them. So they were at war with the natives from the very beginning. I don't want to get too far into it because that can be boring. You can just read the book. But one because present, past, future, they all have like their own like abilities. Without giving too much away, one of them, they went to Rome in the future, and they brought back a deck of cards, tarot cards, as a game. And because it was magical, the AO adopted it, and it became a curse because the AO didn't even know what to do with it. So everyone in IPA is branded with a mark that belongs to a tarot archetype.
Okay.
That was a mouthful. Sorry.
No. It's good. I like it. So obviously this is Lost in Tarot Land is part of a series. Currently there are 2 books available for sale, but I'm assuming that is not the end. So where do you see this series going?
So I have planned basically a book for each island. Book 1 is in wands for half of the book. Book 2 is going to be in swords, and then we still have cups, which will be book 3, and then book 4 will be pentacles, and then of course the tower. So far there's 5. However, as I'm writing the outline, I think in book 3 we're going to have some overlap between 2 islands. So I don't know, it might end in 4.
Now, when you end the 3 or 4, when you end the series, do you plan on staying in the world to tell other stories in the world from other character point of views?
I really want to, and that depends on the fandom, the readership, that how many people are wanting that. I think because, for instance, if I do Tessa and the Hermit, that's not going to be a love story, so it'll just be a little bit different.
Okay. So you mentioned there was the magic with the natives, and then there were the tarot card magic. But what other kinds of magic can we expect in this world?
So the Uma allows unbound Dapani because the Empress binds them so that they cannot use their magic. Magic is outlawed, I forgot to mention, because the Empress does not allow it. Everybody's born with some sort of natural magic pertaining to that world. So some might be able to turn into a mermaid or a merman, or you can turn into a bird and fly, or you have Uma of fire or of snow, for instance, depending on what island you were born in.
So
I was gonna say, with that magic, do the current inhabitants, when Lost in Tarot Land happens, do they remember the time before they had their magic restrained, or has it been far enough past that they've forgotten?
They remember.
Okay.
So, currently, in like the now of the book, the babies are bound as before they get their powers.
Okay. So the institutional memory, though, is still there because their grandparents would still be able to tell them this is the way it was before.
And some of them are unbound. Some families are very against the Empress, and they hide their children. So they know that there's Uma around. And in that world, you'll see posters on trees that say, if you see something, say something. magic is outlawed.
I'm getting shades of other legal situations in the real world, but we will not talk about those.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Enemy of the tower.
All right, Doc.
Oh, so no, I mean I was enjoying it. I think it's really awesome.
Thank you.
But of all the magic and fantasy that you have in here, what would you want to have for daily use for you?
I would love the ability to connect with an animal.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool.
The captain has a familiar who's a wolf, and her name is Iele, which means moon, and she is the archetype of the moon tarot. And the wolf, first of all, she's very picky on who she connects with. So she only speaks to the captain. And she can't speak. So they're like images and pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll go run and do things for him, But she has her own magic, and that is the magic of hallucinatory properties. So she can make you see things that aren't there, change your surroundings, even make you feel, smell things that are just not actually happening.
Convenient skill.
Mhm.
So, wow, that's a lot. So the names that you've given have a slightly sort of melodic tone to the way you're saying them. Are those clearly aren't directly from English? Is that from the language you made up, or are you drawing from like earthbound languages that I'm just not catching?
So her name Iele, you mean?
Yeah.
And the captain's name is Nikela. Yeah, so these are all from the Conlang.
Okay.
The names, they match the culture of the language. Language and culture are very intertwined. So when I spoke to Christian Dahlman and we talked about that, he agreed. It's like, yeah, there's going to be names that you can feel are part of their culture and part of their language. And he drew his inspiration from Polynesian.
Okay. So when he did that, is this your spin on the pronunciations, or did he give you a pronunciation guide too?
Oh, we have pronunciation guides. Yeah.
That is awesome. All right. Sorry to interrupt, Doc. Your favoriteest question of them all.
So how would you abuse having this magic in our world?
I am afraid to even
admit this on air.
Even think about it, because I don't know.
All right. Well then. All right. What animal would you want to connect to the most? Like if you had to just pick one.
Oh, that's hard because I love snakes, but I also love wolves. Killian wolf. I'd probably go with the wolf.
Okay. Snakes are nope noodles. They're from Nopistan. I don't know if you knew that.
Nopistan. Yeah, I have.
Sorry.
He's cute.
Yeah. There are a lot of things snakes are just the hard line for me. So obviously you have fantastical creatures in this world. So when you were creating them, how did you go about doing that? Did you let myth and lore? Did you, your nightmares, your dreams? Was it Mother Nature that inspired you? Like when you're creating these fictional beings that are not humans, how do you go about doing that?
So definitely there's a mix here, because since I have the ancient Greeks coming in with their mythos, Gary is actually Catagaris, remember the dragon I showed you. He is actually a Drakon, which is an ancient Greek mythological dragon, basically. And that is who I wanted to be for my Cheshire cat, but I wanted to make him really kind of crazy. Then the fates, their symbol are spiders, because you have one that weaves the web, one that measures the web, and the other one that cuts the web. So spiders are very important to the fates, and I wanted to give them kind of a characteristic. So I actually created my own spider hybrid in this book. So Philo and the spiders there are a mix between jumping spider and the mirror spider in Australia, which is why they have like that pretty mirror image. So a little bit of mythos, a little bit of nature kind of combined. And there is Ouroboros serpents in the waters. Cool. Is huge. And we have mermaids, and the Apani can shift to them. So
Nice, nice. So clearly we're wrapping this interview up, but before we let you go, was there anything about Lost in Tarotland, a dark Alice in Wonderland retelling that we didn't ask you? And obviously it's the first book in the Chronicles of Tarotland series, dear listener, but was there anything we didn't ask you that you want to tell us before we move on?
It is available on ebook, paperback. The hardback will come at some point soon. I am going to reuse the old cover before the rebrand and just have a title change, and that'll be the hardcover because it is a beautiful cover and so many people did like it.
Okay. So you said there are plans, hopefully at some point in the future, to do a potential audiobook if the reader demand is high enough?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So before we let you go, dear listener, this is the part where I remind you that your reviews matter. So please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platform. They help the right readers find the right books, so do your part. And rumor has it that if she gets her 100th review, the tarot card comes in the mail and she gets to disappear to Fantasy Worlds to take notes to write the next book. True story. I heard it on the back of a cereal box, and they would never lie to me. So,
That would be awesome.
Doc, did you get that experience growing up? Because I know you, in your formative years, you were living in Saudi Arabia. So did you get the cereal box as a kid where the toys inside and all that?
We got cereal boxes. I just didn't eat a lot of cereal. My mother liked me. That's what she told me as she made me eat breakfast. I like you. I made you breakfast. Eat it.
Okay. So, all right. Killian, thank you for coming on. How can listeners or viewers find you on the wild, wild interwebs?
Oh, you can find me anywhere. I'm on Facebook, and I think my handle will be down on the notes, but it's just Killian Wolf Author, and you can find my handle, the same thing, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube.
So, much like the friend of the show, Declan Finn, if there's a social media platform, she's there pretty much.
Yeah.
And she was very nice to have a universal link that links all of it. Like normally I could spend up to an hour tracking everyone down. Hers, 5 minutes, I was done. And mostly it was because clicking the links, the internet was slow this morning. But yeah, so that should be easy, dear listener. And you can track her down and see all the. Don't mock me, Doc. It's not fair. You can find all of the things and check her out. So you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/SF_fantasy_show, Sierra Foxtrot _fantasy_show. You can email the show at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group where all the shenanigans happen at facebook.com/groups/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, /groups/Blasters and Blades Podcast. We do have a Facebook page. Eventually, Doc is going to finish setting that up because she is the owner, and we will have a dedicated URL. But for now, it is there. We share book reviews. We share our episodes. I give you more books to add to your TBR pile, and the reading gods will thank you for it. Just buy the books. Seriously. We have a website where totally cool stuff happens at anchor.fm/blasters tech and tech blades. Again, anchor.fm. Don't do that. It's contagious, Doc. Anchor.fm/blasters tech and tech blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help support the show and keep the lights on. These episodes aren't free to produce, and your contributions are greatly appreciated. If you want to support the show more directly, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the podcast in the comment section that it's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts Doc Cisca and Nick Garber duly caffeinated. I will pour Cuban coffee down their throat until they can see sound and hear colors. There we go. I'll get it right. Just need more coffee, clearly.
Hell yeah. Sounds like fun. Let's try it. Okay. So, on behalf of J.R. Handley, the addle-brained, and the absentee-brained Nick Garber, I am Cisca. This was the Blasters and Blades podcast. Thank you for joining us and spending some of your very precious time with us. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, doing whatever shenanigans come to mind. Have a great time.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for coming, Killian.